betting did go on all around the ringside. No satchels or anything like that, such as they'd have as stands at the greyhounds or horse racing. It was just a question of taking money by hand, remembering who it was they betted with, and whatever the money they got, they stashed in their pockets and so on.
Stewards used to have to go after them to keep it down. You couldn't stop it. Couldn't stop it. There was all well-known faces, like you'd hear one say 5-1, or give you 5-4, or 5 to this. It was like been down the races, like what I mean. It come part of your boxing. You didn't argue about it. It just come part of boxing. And right to argue with someone getting a living.
Yeah.
Was
it illegal? Were they not meant to be doing?
No, it was legal.
It was legal.
All they had been noticed that betting is illegal.
Oh, illegal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I never got involved in it. I kept to myself mainly, so I didn't know most. I knew all the bookmakers that were sitting around the side, and they were the ones that were, dictating and shouting for certain fighters and whatever. And as I said before, some of them would come and give you something after. If they won money on you, they'd come and give you something out of their winnings,
When you were boxing, would you be conscious of these men placing bets?
Oh, you could hear what was going on ringside, especially if things got whipped up a bit. Then among the fighters, then you would hear it even more so, because they were bang on ringside. But I could hear them say, I'll bet 2-1. Or I'll bet 5-2, or whatever.
Boxing and criminals has been together since it ever first started. It first started through gambling. Like the first two kids who can have a row, have a fight. So I'll back him, someone back you, and that pay. So I'll back you. Give you £50 if you beat him, and that's how it started. Yeah. Boxing and gambling it runs hand in hand.
Were there any gangsters or crooks behind boxing in those days?
Oh yeah, there always were, especially in the American side of it. I mean, you read about them, you know about those sort of things. But over here was the same. You still had gangsters or crooks, mainly it was bookmakers and people like that was behind it. And they would try to get people to go crooked and things like that, money-wise. And people carried guns. I'll never forget once, Ted Beber. He was an old manager. I don't know if you've heard of Ted Beber. He was an old manager, yeah. He was one of the East End managers. They used to, when the coloured fighters first started coming over, he used to have them sleeping in his house on the floor and things like that to get them fights and things. But I was sitting next to him one time, or I was talking to him at Mining Arena, and he pulled out a roll of notes, and I said, "Oh, hold on, Ted." I said, "Put your money away." I said, "Did people see that?" "Oh, don't worry about that," he said. "I've got my shooter with me," and he pulled out a gun, and I thought, "Oh, Christ." He
was a bit of a dodgy fella then.
Well, not really. You wouldn't have thought so to him. I think he had a stall in Brick Lane, in Petticoat Lane, selling toys or something, But, and I don't have to worry, I've got my minder with me and things like that,
Betting causes crime and causes fights to be paid off.
I had been asked by the promoter to make the fight go a long time, don't knock him out too quick and things like that, But
not to throw a fight.
But not to throw it. Oh no one ever asked me to throw a fight or anything like. I have heard, you hear whispers about that things did happen that way, and a couple of fights you see that have looked crooked. You know what I mean? Someone's gone down and stayed down when you think, oh, they could have got up.
Was there any crooked boxing in Britain?
Well, I wouldn't like to say. We all have our what's names, but I wouldn't like to say comment. No, there's no comment on that.
No comment.
No comment, no.